All right, good evening. It is 6 p.m. This is the public hearing for the millage. This is the second public hearing. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to open this up to Jennifer Hallman, who is our finance director. Jennifer, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening. I wanted to go ahead and just start in with what's included in the digest. The digest is consisted of real property, personal property, motor vehicles, mobile homes, timber, and heavy-duty equipment. All of those items make up your gross digest. Then you have your exemptions, which you minus out from your gross digest to come up with your net digest. For 2021, the gross digest for Villa Rica is around $850 million, with about 49% of that being your residential, 26% being industrial, and 22% being commercial, with the other remaining 2% being utilities, motor vehicles, agriculture, conservation, and mobile homes. There are two types of, the connection's not working.
They're going to try another.
Oh, okay. Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. There are two types of growth in the digest. You have reassessment and inflationary growth. And again, this is just due to the reassessed value, the reassessments that the each county's appraisal department sends out. And this is also the type of growth that you have to consider when we talk about the rollback calculation, which we'll go over in just a minute. The other type of growth that you have in the digest is new growth. And that is due to any new property or improved property or anything that's been added to the digest that was not in the prior year's digest. That is what you consider your new growth. So your reassessment growth plus your new growth is your total digest growth. As far as Villa Rica, you can see when we talk about reassessment growth, we had, you also hear that term inflationary growth. We had about 3.71% of inflationary growth. We had 0.77 of new growth. So our total growth in the digest was 4.48%. And just to kind of have a little fact regarding a meal, what one meal equals as far as revenue dollars, one meal for Villa Rica is $732,139. As you know, Villa Rica is split between two different counties, Douglas County and Carroll County, and so we're just going to briefly summarize how each of those counties digest had inflationary growth and new growth. For Douglas County, the inflationary growth was 4.69% and new growth being just 0.30%, for a total of 4.99. Carroll County had inflationary growth of 3.12, new growth of 1.05 with a total of 4.17. So when you take those two together, you have the total inflationary growth of 3.7, new growth of 0.77 for total growth of 4.48. When we talk about, again, the reassessment and inflationary growth, the state law requires that we calculate a rollback millage equivalent to offset the inflationary increases to the digest. So we take that $26 million that was reassessment growth and we divide that by our 2021 net digest, multiply that by your prior year millage rate, and that's how you get your millage rollback equivalent. So for this year, it was actually 0.222 was the rollback. We are recommending that we stay with the same millage rate that we had last year, which was 6.25 mills, meaning that we're recommending that you do not roll back due to this upcoming budget being very lean and us needing all the dollars we can just for normal operations. That additional revenue would be $162,000. We're required to meet certain ad notices in the paper from the state, one of those being the current 2021 tax digest and the 5-year history of the levy. And so that went in the paper advertising those historical numbers and the current numbers, as well as advertising when the council would be adopting the millage rate. You can see that the total net increase in taxes is $196,241. But remember, we had new growth in the digest of 0.77%. So around $32,000 of that 196 is actually new growth. It's not any rollback or reassessment growth. So the millage rate schedule, again, due to state requirements, even though that we are recommending that you maintain the same millage rate as you had last year, because of the inflationary increase in taxes, the state considers that a tax increase. So we are required to hold 3 public hearings. We had one today at 10 o'clock, having one now. And then on next Tuesday, August 31st, we will have the 3rd and final public hearing at 6. And then we would ask the council to adopt the millage after the 3rd public hearing so that we can turn our information we have to send to each of the tax commissioner's office so that it can start the process of the tax billing. And that is it.
Okay, so let me just say for those watching at home that the screens are not working, so the presentation was not available for you to see from home. However, if you go back to the earlier session, it was available in the earlier session, and this particular presentation occurred at the very beginning of that meeting, so it would be easy for you to go back and find, which is on the website. Okay, council, I know we did this morning. Is there any questions for Jennifer right now? Okay. If there are no questions, I am going to open this up for a public hearing. I am going to ask if there are any members of the public here who would like to get up and speak. Okay, if you would, I'd like you to come up here and speak. We're going to give you 3 minutes. I want you to give your name and address for the record, and then speak for 3 minutes. And I don't have a timer, so I'm going to trust you to stop when I do this, as Ms. Shirley says.
Jody
Help
Mount,
me out at least.
Jody Mount, 214 Rockmart Road. And I am aware of the state of our infrastructure. I come to the council meetings or watch them. I come to the work sessions and watch the council meetings. I feel like it would be fiscally irresponsible to roll back our millage rate. I am very concerned that this is an election year, that 3 of you are running for election, and I would beg you not to jeopardize our city just to get elected. Please. Please don't do that. Every one of you have been to the meetings. I mean, you have. You know the state. You know what's going on. You know, and it's our future. It's our future. You know, I'm living in a part of town that hasn't gotten fixed yet. We need the increased revenue. We need it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, come on up. Give us your name and address for the record. And, man, if you keep it as short as she did, you're going to be well within the time.
Nancy Mim, 17 Hickory Trail, Billerica. I happen to agree with Jody. And the reason I agree is that in doing the history of Billerica and realizing how much money we've had to spend on the infrastructure, is because council members and things in the past probably didn't have the future and foresight that we have now and the sustainable growth that we have. And I think that, yeah, we need to be prepared for that. We don't want to skimp now and then have to spend more money later on. So I agree that maybe we need to not do the rollback.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else? Sir, if you'll come up and give us your name and address for the record. Keep that same time frame going.
Okay. John Mount, 214 Rockmart Road. So I don't like taxes as much as anybody else. You know, our federal government, I mean, we just left $27 billion worth of weapons on the ground in Afghanistan, wasted money. The state spends a lot of money. The money I spend right here on my taxes, I see benefit from it every day. So if you want to roll back the millage rate, please let us know what you think we don't need. If we don't need policemen, I think that's how you need to state that. You know, in front of my house, we have trucks, we have speeders. It doesn't seem like we have enough policemen the way it is. If we don't need the sewer system, if we don't need water, if we don't need streets, if we don't need sidewalks, tell us what that is that you want to cut out of our budget. Because the money I spend here, of all the taxes I spend, this is probably the least amount I pay, and this is what I get the most benefit from. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, sir. All right, is there anybody else here who would like to speak? All right, seeing nobody else, I will close the public hearing and I will revert back to staff. And council, do you have any questions for staff? All right, I know this seems short, and that was always going to be the case because we did this earlier today at 10 o'clock. So, staff, Mr. City Manager, Mrs. Deputy City Manager, do either of y'all have anything to add here? Ms. Finance Director? All right, if there's nothing else, we will stand adjourned.